Hey folks, Gway. This week I was reading the news and I stumbled across a story that I found really, really fascinating. Not necessarily because of the content, but because of something Mike Johnson, who was interviewed for this story, says. Because it always fascinates me when people get it exactly right, but then proceed to keep talking. So anyhow, Mike Johnson was being interviewed about his feelings on the personhood of fertilized eggs, and he was asked if destroying an embryo should be considered murder. Of course, you know what's going on. What happened in Alabama when the state Supreme Court decided that that a family could sue a clinic for the destruction of their embryos as wrongful death. That the Supreme Court came out literally saying that these fertilized eggs were indeed to be considered children under Alabama law. So now the press is asking all kinds of questions. Media is asking all kinds of questions of these Bible-believing, biblical worldview having Christian politicians out there trying to get a feel for what is it they believe, what is it that they're going to do. Are they going to be following suit along with Alabama? Are they going to be towing that particular line, or what the case is? I mean, the ramifications in Alabama so far have been that a lot of IVF clinics. I said, yeah, we're gonna put a hold on this until we get some more details. We're not going to be operating as normal until we get some more details about how this ruling is going to impact our law, our life, our business. Excuse me. Anyhow, so with that being said, Mike Johnson was being interviewed, and they very clearly asked him, "Do you think that destroying of an embryo is indeed murder?" And he didn't answer. He backpedaled around. He said, we're something along the lines of, this is unproven ground. We've never been here before. The IVF's only been around since the 70s. He said, we I think, meaning the Republican Party, we support IVF, and we support we support children, and he doing his politician thing, right? I'm not going to answer anything clearly, but he does make a mistake, I think. He says this: if you do believe that life begins at conception, it's a really important question to wrestle with. He said, it's not one Congress has dealt with. It won't be. I think it's the states' issue, and states will have to be handling that. I'm going to read that first part again. If you do believe that life begins at conception, it's a really important question to wrestle with. If you believe that life begins at conception, it's a really important question for you to wrestle with. He says it. That's perfect. Now, he goes on to say other things, and he didn't need to. This was perfect. If you have a problem with IVF, you shouldn't look for IVF treatment. If you believe that a fertilized egg is indeed a person, and you don't believe that fertilized egg should be put in a freezer, then you shouldn't have your eggs fertilized in a petri dish in order to go through IVF. If you believe that a fertilized egg is indeed a person, a child, and that the destruction of said egg would mean that the person is murdered, then if you were to go through IVF, then every single fertilized egg that is the result of your treatment, you should ensure that it's implanted, that it's used within you to bring a child into this world, a fully grown child into this world, a fully grown infant into this world. If he had stopped there, I would have been so happy, because it's perfect. Like IVF isn't something that some guy in a garage just figured out one day and said, let's start doing this. It's been studied, right? Medical ethics have been studied. They've looked at the procedure. They've looked at the results. They've looked at the reasoning behind it. They have a really good understanding of what's taking place. They've done research. They have a really good understanding of what's actually happening. And most importantly for me is that they continue to keep studying. Now, we as a society since the 70s have said, yeah, IVF, there's some things we want to find out, okay, and they've figured it out, and they've come back to us with it, and they've told us how it works, and they have an understanding of what an embryo is and how an embryo operates and all that kind of stuff. And ethically speaking, morally speaking, they've said, okay, we're safe in here. This is a good place for us to be. Now, as time goes on, they'll keep studying, and if new data comes forward, that ethical and moral understanding may change. It may not. The data coming in might validate and affirm what we already know. The data coming in might completely change what we know. The bottom line is, for me, it's a medical decision. It's medical ethics comes into play here, not religious understanding. For religious understanding, if I have a problem with it, if my religion tells me, hey, Ed, you know what? No, life begins at conception. Therefore, I can't have anything to do with IVF. I get it. If my religion says, Ed, alcohol is an absolute no-no, I get it. I shouldn't drink alcohol. I've got friends who are people of faith, who are told as a part of their religious life that caffeine is an absolute no. You do not consume caffeine. My friends, they do not drink tea. They do not drink coffee. They do not drink most sodas because it contains caffeine. They stay away from foods that have caffeine. But they don't tell me, Ed, you can't drink your Mountain Dew. They don't tell me you can't drink your soda, whatever brand it happens to be. I'm not promoting Mountain Dew here. Just I have a story about that. They're not telling me I can't drink coffee. They don't even stop me from drinking coffee in their presence. They refrain from it because of their religious understanding. What Mike Johnson says, I'm going to come back to it one more time because it's really quite good. If you believe that life begins at conception, that's a really important question to wrestle with, i.e., you need to wrestle with that question. If you believe that life begins at conception, then you have to ask yourself how or if IVF fits into your family's life, into your decision-making process, into your plans going forward. But that doesn't mean it should impact the lives of others. I don't get to push my religion onto you. At no point am I told to push my religion onto you. Yes, somebody might say, but the Great Commission. The Great Commission says, go out and make disciples of all the world. I can do that without pushing my theological understandings upon you. I can do that without pushing my religious life upon you. I can do that without pushing my faith journey upon you. My faith journey is mine. Yours will be yours. All when it comes to making disciples, when it comes to sharing the gospel, my whole mission in life is not to win converts. My mission is just to simply show you. Simply might be the wrong word, but my mission is to show you the love of God. Whether or not you accept it is completely up to you, but I'm going to show you the love of God in my actions and in my words and within the context of our relationship. But I'm not going to try to make you live my way. As much as I love Anglicanism, and I do love Anglicanism, I'm not going to try to make you an Anglican. I'm not going to try to make my neighbor an Anglican. I just want my neighbor to know how much God loves them And if they can fully grasp that and they decide, you know what? Wow, thanks, Ed, for sharing the gospel, but I'm going to go to this church or that one or that religion. God bless you. If they say, thanks, Ed, for sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ with us, that's really given us lots to think about, and that's really given us a new direction, a new way of living our life, but it's not going to involve any kind of religion. God bless you. If they say, Ed, thanks so much for sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ in a way that really gets to us, but it means nothing to us, God bless you. My call is not to achieve certain results. My call is to do a certain thing and let God achieve the results. It's not within the scope of my religious life to force you to live a particular way. All my mission is to make sure that I'm living a way that God tells me to live and sharing the gospel through that life. I mean, James, in the book of James, he talks about true religion. You know, what is true religion? He says it's to take care of people and to not be sullied, to not be polluted by the ways of the world, to go and live a holy life. You go and live a holy life, not you go make everybody else live what you consider to be a holy life. If my faith tells me not to do this and not to do that, then I shouldn't do this or that. I should avoid doing this or that. If your faith tells you to avoid doing that or the other thing, then you shouldn't do that or the other thing. But just because our faith informs how we are supposed to live does not mean we are given the right or even the responsibility or even that we're even asked to try to force our understandings of how our faith informs us on how to live onto others. I do not have the right to demand that you live my way. And you don't have the right to demand that I live your way. If you have a problem with it, then it's something for you to wrestle with. And if you're okay with it, then you don't have to wrestle with it. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord's face be made to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord's countenance be lifted up to you. May you always know the peace of being in the Lord's presence. And I pray that you will be able to find peace living the life that God is calling you to live without needing others to live that way too. I pray that you will be able to find God living the way of your faith without requiring the rest of the world to live according to your faith as well. I pray that our following would indeed be ours, and we would trust the people around us and indeed God themselves to allow them to live the life that they believe God is calling them to live. Amen. Nemultus.